Welcome to From the Mezzanine, a motion picture podcast. We are two guys from the Midwest who have a passion for all things film and TV. We are not professional reviewers. We do not trade opinions for special access from movie studios, and our reviews are not on behalf of any organization or publication that may have a larger agenda. Each week, we put our own money on the line to tell you what is the best and the worst in theaters, on streaming services, and on video on demand. We are not here to beg for your donations or sell men's razors and meal kits. From this point forward, we are talking all things movies and television. First off, I want to acknowledge that as we record, it is Halloween night, and I'm glad to be here spending it with you, Chuck. We got a bunch of spooky things lined up for tonight, including our big review of last night in SoHo. So without further ado, why don't you take us in?
Yeah, and for some reason, even though we'll talk about it more later, but it didn't really hit me that this is a horror movie. This thing is supposed to be a horror movie. That didn't quite register with me right away because it was just so bubbly and happy. But yeah, we are really happy to be back again. This is episode 2, and we're going to be covering a lot of streaming content this evening. Not so much we didn't get a chance to go to any other theatrical showings except for last night in SoHo, which will be the main subject of our topics tonight. But we got a little bit of news to break down right off the bat. And first and foremost, they aren't leaving us in any suspense. We are getting Dune Part 2. Mm-hmm. And I was about ready to riot if the box office returns hadn't been favorable. But a lot of people pulled through for us and went to that movie, and a lot of people who normally wouldn't have gone to a Dune movie actually saw this thing, and they're excited about it. Like, a lot of my coworkers and even my boss was asking me questions about Dune, yesterday morning while we were working.
Okay.
But they all seem to like it, but they all said the same thing. I have no fucking clue what that movie was about. I have no clue what's going on, but it looked pretty, so they were down for it.
Yep.
Yeah. But if there really is a question to be asked about that movie, it's is can they tell it in one last movie? Can they wrap it all up?
Yeah.
And
that was my big question, because this is the way that all these movie news sites are positioning this second movie. This is going to be the second and final Dune movie. And what I'm wondering is, what makes you think that this is necessarily going to be the last one?
Yeah.
And that there won't be a third, or that they can even fit the rest of the first book into one more movie. So that was kind of my question to you as the sort of Dune expert here.
Yeah. And that's a fair question, because the situation with the books is such that the first Dune novel is itself 4 books total. It's pretty dense as an experience. And even that miniseries that pretty successfully hewn to the the source material, it took them 4 or 5 hours to give you a faithful adaptation of each of the segments of the novel. And they spent 2.5 hours or more giving a very pared down version of the first book and a half of Dune, the original novel.
Mm-hmm.
And if they treat the rest of the book the same way that they treated the stuff that they did adapt, they very easily could, by just abandoning a lot of the really important character stuff that this first movie did kind of suffer for, in my opinion. Gurney Halleck and Toofer Hawat and Piter, the Mentat, and even Lady Jessica in her own right, and the Duke himself in particular as characters kind of suffered. They're pretty marginalized, by what the kind of emotional scope of the movie was versus the narrative scope of it. So if they maintain the style and intent that they had, they probably could, just by leaving a lot behind. But if they have any desire to maintain, a great deal of what they didn't spend time on this time, if they want to commit like 20 minutes to wrapping up a storyline that wasn't even introduced in this first movie. Like it might seem a little pointless, but yeah, like they easily could. Like, David Lynch did his movie and told the whole story in his way,
Yeah.
in all of its different versions. But yeah, they easily could just make Dune a mini series released every 2 years. They could just take that much time with it, because there is a lot of shit to pack into it. It's a very episodic book, like on its own, and there's a lot of really important sequences that would need to be in this final movie that would make it really busy. So yeah, I could see it going either way. Either Villeneuve, however you say his name, I struggle with it. If he does it, in such a way that he's like, I'm sorry, Warner Brothers, I actually just made the middle act of one big giant movie. I need to Peter Jackson this and have a third. I could see that happening, and Warner Brothers might not be too upset about that. But he has this like vision where he tells the first Dune book in his 2 movies, and then he adapts Dune Messiah to complete a trilogy, of his own, intent anyway. And that's probably where he's gonna go with it, and then that could leave, yeah, because like who knows if they even do Children of Dune, let alone God Emperor of Dune, which are the books I really want to see done. Just because they're so bizarre and out there, but they are non-commercial, they are non-viable, they are so weird.
Okay.
Like there's armies of female like warrior like monks who worship a worm god and maintain a tyrannical hold over the religious beliefs of the entire universe. Like they it's a like that's what God Emperor of Dune is about. It goes from what we're seeing now to that kind of weird shit. It gets really fucking out there.
Okay.
So who knows if Warner Brothers has the stomach for that.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll have to see. But for sure, we're getting the second one, so that's going to be nice.
That's
in less than 2 years. So
and hopefully we get to see more of the Baron, in
yeah,
all of his glory.
Yeah.
But we also got some news about another adaptation. Is this going to be the rebirth of the MonsterVerse? And it's coming to us from Derek Cianfrance and Ryan Gosling. What can you tell us about that, Matt?
Yeah, so this was originally going to be done by Lee Whannell, the guy who did the Invisible Man movie.
Yeah, that one with Elizabeth Moss.
Yeah,
that was interesting.
He was, I guess, going to kind of spearhead their movement of picking up the remnants of the Dark Universe, but he actually dropped out, and so now it's going to be Ryan Gosling has been working on this movie apparently for years, like on the script for this Wolfman
his passion.
Movie. Yeah, this is his passion project.
So like when Benicio del Toro was making his Wolfman movie, Ryan Gosling was sitting there in the theater just going, "I wish that were me."
Yeah, it's possible. Yeah, it's definitely possible. It's been a while, he says, and so he got his buddy Derek Cianfrance to be the director now, and also write it with him.
God. What a strange pair.
Yeah,
for a movie like this.
It's weird because it's his first kind of it's Derek Cianfrance's first mainstream movie, I guess, or it will be.
That's what I was going to ask. It's like, because this dude has never done anything that wasn't art house material.
No, nope, he hasn't. His main ones, I mean, he's known for Blue Valentine and Place Beyond the Pines.
And then this long gestating biopic about Marilyn Monroe, right? Am I remembering that correctly?
Oh, that's Andrew Dominique.
Yeah, God dang, I'm so sorry. Conflating so many people.
Yeah,
God,
so
why did I think that?
No, he's most recently he did that miniseries on HBO that starred Mark Ruffalo as twins.
That's what it was. Yes.
So
that was the last time I saw his name.
But he's going to be doing this, and this is the type of thing where I I really hope this doesn't happen, but this is totally the type of thing where 6 months from now, I can see the news headline, Derek Cianfrance drops out of Wolfman movie, because he's just not the guy,
Yeah.
no matter, I mean, as much as we want him to be the guy, he's not the guy.
Yeah.
And so I'll be surprised to see this through. But the one thing that has me, kind of have faith is that it's directed by Jason Blum from Blumhouse.
Oh, he's producing it.
He's producing it. Yeah. Or yeah, not directed, producing. And his movies never go over about $15 million.
He's a master.
So at the very least, we know it's not going to be some huge bloated action movie, because you can't do that on $15 million. So
we will not have a CGI boss battle in a burning house in this film.
Yeah, yep, pretty much.
Unfortunate, as much as awesome as that was in the Del Toro movie. So we'll guess we'll have to look forward to that. There's a lot of strange interplay between an art house director and somebody so commercially, astute as Jason Blum. They're strange bedfellows. It'll make for an interesting, product when it's all said and done.
Yeah.
Nope, did not want to bring that over there. Okay, but and along with all of those other announcements, we get a slew of confirmations that these things that we love and expect to get more of, it's all coming courtesy of Warner Brothers, HBO in this instance, along with Dune. They're letting us know, okay, yeah, Succession, you're getting another season of that, and I know you like The Righteous Gemstones. So yes, you're getting that even after we new season's not here yet, but here you go. You're also getting a third season of that show, which is fucking exciting because that show fucking rules and has rules. And I've missed it, and I've been wondering where it's been. Like, did the COVID really just put so many things just like in limbo for a while, didn't it? As far as that goes.
You've got a lot of people, a lot of busy people in that show, and Danny McBride was probably doing, he was busy on the Halloween movies.
It still blows my mind that he's doing that. Like,
it's so weird.
It doesn't really, because I had watched a little bit of the movies that made us, and even seeing David Gordon Green pop up and be like, I'm so excited to be, a part of the new future of this franchise. And I'm just like, who are you? And what are you doing here? And why are you doing this?
So it's weird. So, but you got a bunch of busy people. And so I think it's a miracle that it's been this long since the first season. And the second season there isn't even a trailer for the second season yet. And they already confirmed the third season.
Oh my God.
So that's good. And then of course, Succession, that's good too, because that also has disappeared up until recently. That also disappeared for 2 years. And so now that we've got that in our future, I think we've got kind of the Golden Globes and the Emmys covered as far as the winner.
Well, moving on from news. Well, I guess we'll have to see about all that when the time comes. But moving on from news, we didn't really see any other movies in theaters this week apart from last night in Soho. So we will just be jumping right into the streaming content we were able to, fit into our week, as that gets more difficult and difficult as life gets crazier and crazier this time of year. And I guess if you're all right, I'll just start with what I was able to watch.
Go ahead.
Yeah, and I checked out a couple different things. One of them I said last week that I was going to be watching, and that was Archenemy, which is a really weird little movie from, like a very fascinating young filmmaker. Sorry, I'm kind of finding myself caught flat-footed here, not having everything up that I anticipated having ready. There we go. Okay. So, and I'm blanking on the director's name, but like he had directed something before this called Daniel Isn't Real, which was this weird little urban fantasy about an imaginary friend. And this movie is about a homeless guy who may or may not be a superhero from like a comic book dimension.
Okay.
And like this film was, photographed by the late Helena Hutchins, of the infamous, Rust shooting. So this was her last completed work. And it has this very gritty, in your face sort of aesthetic mixed with really like different rotoscoped animation sequences too that are narrated by the homeless man played by John Mangiello, who, you know,
Joe, I think.
Joe, yeah,
Joe.
Joe, yeah, and he's just so just gritty and gross. Like he literally looks like he's pissed his pants like throughout the movie. And everyone in this movie is disgusting. It basically is hobo with a shotgun mixed with heavy metal.
Okay.
Yeah, it has that aesthetic going for it. That grime. Everybody is a sleazebag. Even the brother and sister, characters who are supposed to be the relatable people for us in this are they're just bonkers, idiots. They're just idiotic people. But everybody in this is just a cartoon character. Glenn Howerton plays completely against type as a gangster, and Paul Schreer shows up as a head to foot tattooed drug dealer. But the whole like idea is that this guy has tripped into our universe, chasing after his archenemy, and he has reason to believe that his archenemy is hiding in this city, and he needs to find them and kill them. And he slowly they tease out like who this person was to him in this other world, and how the rules of his reality interplay with our reality. Like there's this plot element that he calls cosmic blood that is polluting the multiverse, and it destroyed his universe and sent him on the course to ours. And in our universe, cosmic blood is meth.
Okay.
So, like, cosmic blood can give you powers. So, if he snorts meth, his comic book universe powers come back to him. So the end of the movie is just him snorting meth and killing people, and it's just bloody and violent. And yeah, the script is nothing special. The performances are, fun and passable. And this was just a fun little weird, little diversion from reality for me, and it was exciting to see just something goofy and fun for a change, that didn't take itself too seriously. But this guy does the director, I just have to find his name on here, Adam Egypt Mortimer. He has like aspirations for this movie and Daniel Isn't Real to be some kind of shared universe, and to
Okay.
have the main character of Archenemy deal with the entity Daniel from the first movie in some third, proposed film that may or may not, come to fruition. But if you're looking for something to watch and you have AMC Plus, this is worth seeing. I guess that's the final thing I have to say about Archenemy.
Okay.
Um, and the second movie I saw was The Guilty on Netflix. Have you heard of that one?
You know what? I've actually seen this one.
Okay, so we actually can kind of talk about this one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, I don't have much to say about it.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. I didn't really either.
yeah,
It's Nick Pizzolatto, Antoine Fuqua for people who haven't heard of this one.
yeah.
Um,
I didn't know that I didn't I knew about Antoine Fuqua, but I didn't know that it was Nick Pizzolatto until the title card came up at
oh
the
yeah,
end. I was
yeah.
like, whoa, that's weird. I
That's
mean, it
how
makes
yeah.
sense why the main character is such an asshole now.
Yeah,
Uh,
and why all the dialogue is just cop talk the whole time.
yeah.
Like, and that stuff works. That stuff's authentic. It's literally fit within like a real time 90 minutes for the most part. And I did enjoy trying to tease out like who the cameos were and all, like because like most of the cast just phoned in their performances for this, because
Yes.
this will be looked back on as just a prototypical quarantine movie. Fuqua literally, like directed this from a video truck, completely alone and isolated from all human beings, just talking to them through speakers and, through webcams and stuff like that. So, yeah, who knows? Like, yeah, there's not much to this. And it basically was just an inoffensive way to spend 90 minutes. And
Yeah.
it wasn't as, as fun as Archenemy and like most Pizzolatto stuff. It's very, like he kind of glances at his navel a lot, and but he doesn't have any time or space to have his soliloquies, about nihilism like he can with True Detective. So he can't really show his brilliance, like his true brilliance as a writer, which is just letting, sweaty bearded men chew scenery. You know what I mean? That's what he's good at writing.
Oh yeah.
And this was pretty pared down, and I was into it, but much kind of like what I'm gonna have to say about Last Night in Soho. The twist in this should have been obvious to me as I was watching it. Like
But it wasn't.
it wasn't like just
Okay.
like what the reality of the situation actually was. That like whatever like the because in any movie where you have a character with blinders on, you adopt those blinders as an audience member, just kind of passively without even really thinking about it. At least I found myself doing that as I
Mhm.
watched both movies, and I thought to myself, okay, hang on, you need to start thinking more critically as you're watching this thing instead of
Yeah.
just going along with the ride. But yeah, 'cause they're so convicted about whatever it is they're trying to achieve. He's looking for redemption in all of like the Jake Gyllenhaal's character, I guess I should say, in this movie. He's looking for a redemption that he can only get by admitting the truth about himself, which is the title of the film. He needs to admit that he's guilty. So it's pretty trite, and it maybe would be more interesting to watch the original Norwegian one, because a lot of these Nordic movies that Hollywood picks up, they, with rare exceptions, you're better off watching the original as opposed to what Hollywood is able to put together.
Mhm.
Even though from the sounds of it, they didn't change all that much from one to the other.
Okay.
Yeah,
I actually didn't know that
yeah,
that it was a Norwegian movie,
yeah.
but it makes sense now that I think about it because they are good at doing those Norwegians are good at doing those depressing nihilistic movies because they're used to being depressing and nihilistic.
It's just all the snow and the ice,
Yeah, pretty much.
in the blood. There's just so much blood on the snow. Oh man. But I guess like that's it for what I was able to. But I guess the one last like thing, I'll circle back quickly. Sorry, to Archenemy just to highlight Spectre Vision. I am like they were the production house behind that movie,
Yep.
and they are really exciting. And that's what's his name, Frodo Baggins, right? That's Elijah Wood's production company, is it not? Spectre
I
Vision.
believe so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have the only thing that they've put out that I didn't like was the movie that he starred in. Not to digress too much, but all I really want to say is that Spectre Vision. Every time I see their logo pop up in a trailer, I'm instantly invested in whatever they're doing.
Sure.
I'm a fan. That's all I'm trying to say. Check them out.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess I'll kind of go into what I was watching this week. I'll start off with Old, the M. Night Shyamalan movie. I
And
watched it on video on demand.
so, in that when you say video on demand, that's just like on your cable package
Rental.
rental. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It was just a rental, $6, I think. So if anybody's not familiar with it, this is about a family that finds a secret beach that accelerates your aging.
Really cool,
And
high
that's kind of,
concept. Yeah.
yeah, it's very interesting concept, like all M. Night Shyamalan stuff, but kind of fails in the execution. Um, Basically, I thought it got way too convoluted. I don't want to spoil it because that's really all M. Night Shyamalan movies are spoilers, and once you know what happens, it's like why even watch it?
Yeah.
But basically there's too many rules for the beach that they're on. Like certain characters age faster than others, and they put like old age makeup on some of them, and then
Yeah.
others they don't. And yeah, it's there's too many rules, and it gets kind of confusing, and it gets a little bit. I think there's like some continuity errors because of that, and but there are like moments of really cool stuff that happens. Like there's this one really shallow Instagram girl that's there who has like
Hmm.
brittle bone disease, and when she starts aging, her brittle bone disease basically causes all of her bones to break at once in her body,
Oh
and
god.
it is a really good scene of sort of practical effects when that happens.
And that
um,
actress, because I was able to see this,
yeah,
Abby Lee, like she's just, whenever I see her in a movie, something horrible is either happening to her or being done by her. Yeah, she really knows how to pick them. These roles. But the part that really fucked me up, yeah, was the I guess, yeah, without, I don't want to spoil it, but it's like the implications of, because that's the question. Is it that you're aging really fast, or is it that time is advancing around you at an accelerated rate? Like the implications of, okay, if somebody has sex on this beach, how quickly do they gestate? And why, and is it just that their body is gestating faster, or is time accelerating around them? I did not understand the mechanics of this movie at all.
yeah, it was pretty confusing, and it just I think it honestly just kind of said fuck it to a lot of the stuff and
Yeah.
just said we're gonna do what looks cool. But yeah, the only other thing I wanted to mention about it was this is probably one of the most disgusting PG-13 movies I've ever seen,
I agree
and I
with
don't
you
know
on that.
how it got that, because there is this scene where they have to remove a tumor from one of the characters, and I don't know how they got that into. You can see where the MPAA made them make cuts, but
Hmm.
even after all the cuts that they made, it's like really gross. And
Very
yeah, it's
unsettling.
very unsettling and very gross. But yeah, that's all I really have to say about it. Was there anything else you wanted to touch on?
I got one comment. I
Yeah.
really liked Rufus Sewell's performance of this slowly degenerating, like, so like this man did, like, his Parkinson, not a Parkinson's, Alzheimer's is setting in rapidly as the
Mhm.
longer they stay on the beach, and he just slowly starts losing it. And how it manifests is by him saying, "Did you know that Jack Nicholson and Marlon Brando were in a movie together?" And he just keeps on bringing it up, and I was just sitting there watching. I was like, "Is that, were they actually in a movie together?" And I googled it, and they were in a western called The Missouri Breaks, where
Okay.
Jack Nicholson plays a cattle rustler who's fucking this rich rancher's daughter, and
Okay.
this rich rancher gets pissed about it, so he hires a hitman to kill Jack Nicholson and all of his friends, and that's what the movie's about. And Marlon Brando is the hitman.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'd never heard of it. I had never heard of this fucking movie, but just the fact that it just kept on getting brought up just took me out of the movie, and I was like, I'm stopping this. I am answering this
I
question
gotta
for.
look this up.
Gotta look this up. And the reason why that was put in the movie at all was because M. Night Shyamalan's own father was going through dementia and kept
Okay.
on bringing up this movie. And he couldn't believe that his son hadn't seen this movie. And so
Hmm.
M. Night Shyamalan was like, "Dad, I've never seen this movie, and if you bring it up again, I'm going to put this moment in a movie." So that's why that was like that.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, all right, I'll move on to my next one. The Night House. This is also I rented this one. I think it's another 5.99 rental. This is starring Rebecca Hall. She plays a woman whose husband is an architect who commits suicide
Ooh.
in the house that they live in, and she kind of starts revealing a bunch of secrets about him after his death, going through kind of his like architecture blueprints and stuff, and
Oh.
she starts finding weird like secret rooms in the house and stuff
Oh.
like that.
That's interesting.
So yeah, it's very interesting. This is David Bruckner. Are you familiar with David Bruckner?
I am not. Who is David
So
Bruckner?
he did for Netflix. He did The Ritual.
I loved that one. That was
Yep.
fun. That was a good
Yep.
time.
He also did one of the segments in VHS and then one of the segments in Southbound. Those are both
Oh yeah,
horror anthologies.
yeah.
Yep.
Southbound was uneven, but overall, I enjoyed that. Which
Mhm.
segment did he do in that one? Like without getting
The
too
one
deep into
called
the
The
weeds.
Accident
Okay, okay,
was called.
yeah.
So yeah, I mean, and then also I'll just touch on this right at the beginning since we're talking about it. He is also doing the upcoming Hellraiser reboot,
Okay.
and I'll say that after seeing this movie, the Hellraiser reboot is in good hands because this was fantastic. It's the Night House is a slow burn with an absolutely like bonkers 15 minutes.
I'm gonna check this
Um,
out. I'm
yeah,
sold.
it's crazy. It's absolutely nuts. And Rebecca Hall's performance is really good. A lot of the times she is acting against, it's just her alone in the house,
Hmm.
and she's just acting against a ghost that's there. So she has to kind of pretend like she's being attacked by a ghost. And so it's her just pretending to be attacked basically. And it's
Uh-huh.
done really well. Um, and then there's a lot of really interesting elements, such as like witchcraft that they bring into it, and like totems, like
Hmm.
tricking ghosts with like totems and stuff like that. And so it's a lot of really crazy ideas in this kind of low budget, really well done slow burn of a horror movie.
Right on.
Um,
I,
so
I I had seen the trailer for it, but it just I just had yeah, like I don't rent movies too often,
mhm,
and like, unless like my girlfriend desires to watch something that isn't available anywhere on streaming, like if I
sure.
like Rosemary's Baby or whatnot. But Rebecca Hall, she as a because like she's be in a movie like this, she's perfect for it. She's like the queen of really pared down singular role horror films where it's just her acting against unseen forces. She had
Mhm.
done some sort of like movie about a lady who debunks seances. That was I remember being very cool. The name is escaping me at the moment.
The
The
Awakening.
Awakening, yeah.
Yeah.
But that premise just really has has my attention though. That sounds really neat.
Yeah, it was good. And then the last movie I just wanted to touch on quick here was I recently received in the mail the Blu-ray of the William Friedkin movie To Live and Die in L.A., the 1985 movie,
Okay.
because this movie is impossible to find anywhere else.
And
I had to
why
pay.
is that?
I have no idea. I had to pay $25 for it on a second hand. It's not even on Amazon. You can't, if you want to buy it, you have to buy it from like one of those like third party sellers on
What
Amazon.
the hell? I'd have to go to like PacSun or something like that in the mall to
Yeah.
find this.
Yeah, it's weird. And it's not, it's, I don't think it's currently being like printed right now. So you have to get like either a used copy or
Or
a
like
copy
some
that's,
bootleg that someone's just making and selling on eBay. Pressing
yeah.
their own Blu-rays of this.
Yeah. So,
Huh.
yeah, I mean this movie's great. It's, I mean, obviously it's been around a long time, and people, it's one of William Friedkin's best. It stars William Peterson, who had a really good start to his career in the 80s,
That is true.
between this and Manhunter, and then he went on to just be the CSI guy.
God.
Um, and but yeah, he's really good in this, and it has an incredible car chase at the end of the movie where Friedkin was like, "I need to fucking outdo the French Connection."
I need
So
to show that this old dog's got tricks, I can
yeah,
still do this.
and
Um,
then of course you got William Dafoe as the bad guy, and he plays a money counterfeiter who kills William Peterson's partner. He's a cop, and he
okay.
kills his partner, and so um,
It's been a while since
Willem
I've seen
Dafoe,
this, so it's coming
yeah,
back to me though.
yeah, it's awesome, and it's one of the kind of big scenes in the movie is the counterfeiting scene where Willem Dafoe actually did learned how to counterfeit money from real ex-cons,
Right
and then
on.
they showed the entire process in the movie, and then people watched the movie and started counterfeiting money in real life.
I think we found the answer for why this film is hard to find.
Oh, probably.
That might be
Yeah,
it.
it's pretty insane. They show the entire process from start to finish, so that's pretty cool.
Damn.
But yeah, I mean, you don't really see movies like this anymore. It's just a really, really like awesome, like practical effects and real
Oh my
car
God.
chases and putting like real stuntmen lives on the line. And there's a Wang Chung soundtrack.
So I thought I had just pulled up a trailer. What I pulled up there was like 90 minutes of the movie, like vignetted and re-edited or something like that. I have no clue what this is. But
Okay.
yeah, maybe yeah, I probably should pull that down because it wasn't just a trailer. It was like the whole freaking. So yeah, if you want to see this thing, you see it in garbage quality on YouTube.
Hmm.
That some Russian man has hacked together and put on there. Or
Yeah,
you yeah,
it's very hard to find. I mean, if you can find it, I would recommend. I had never seen it before, and I just blind bought it, and I think the purchase was worth it. This is one that I'm going to watch multiple times over the next 10 or 20 years.
right on, dude. Because the last time, because I hadn't thought about this movie in a long time.
Hmm.
Um, but I love William Friedkin though. Like I love The Exorcist. Like Killer Joe is like the last thing he did that I actually got to see. That and I love that movie. It's so fucking weird
Yeah,
and
it's
gross
great.
and grimy, and it's the part of the reconnaissance too. It was before like Hollywood really loved him again.
Yep.
Yeah, but
Yeah, that one's good.
but
So
he's a cool filmmaker,
yeah.
and I the last time I saw that movie, do you know it was on streaming? Like Netflix had it, like
Oh,
like
really?
like 7 freaking years ago. Though keep in mind this was a long time ago.
Okay.
But it is fishy. But it might be because of the money laundering scene that you can't just pop onto Uncle Bezos's website and have it shipped to you directly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Unfortunately. But now we're gonna move on to the mentionables. So, did you have you had a lot of chance to get back into Death Stranding?
I played a little bit more of it. Not too much. I can only really handle this game in like probably 45-minute chunks,
Mm-hmm.
because if anybody doesn't know, it's basically you play a postman who delivers packages in the post-apocalypse. And
Pretty
so you're
rad.
just running around with packages on your back, and the game is walking. You walk and you try not to fall over, and you try not to trip on rocks and mountains, and it's cool. It's interesting because there's no other game like it, but it's just kind of um, it gets boring after a while, honestly. And it can't be like a podcast game. It's not a game where you can just throw a podcast on because
Yeah.
it's a Hideo Kojima game. So every like 15 minutes, there's a half-hour cutscene.
Yes, co-starring the likeness of Guillermo del Toro, Mads Mikkelsen, and for some reason Nicholas Winding Refn.
Yep.
That like I want to play this game just to get to the point where his character shows up. But I've only put like an hour or two into it. I think I just got through like the first giant block of cutscenes.
Okay.
Yeah, but that is Hideo Kojima though. That is what the man is all about. He isn't just making video games here. He's making the movies of the future.
Yeah.
As far as
Yeah.
that's concerned.
It's interesting, and I like it better. I think it's a lot more original than like Metal Gear Solid, the other series that he's really known for. Metal Gear Solid is interesting too, but Metal Gear Solid was kind of grounded in like stuff that's based on real world events, and based on sort of established things. But this is like wholly original, and it's absolutely crazy, and
Oh,
it's worth playing for that alone, even to kind of power through the more like indulgent parts.
oh yeah, and you're exactly right about the distinction between it and MGS. Because
Yeah.
like with MGS, you can look at it and go, okay, I understand completely where he got this from and where he's going with it. You know,
Mhm.
you really can. Yeah, it's like you can look at the real world, you can compare it to his fiction and see the through line through it. But I have no fucking clue what he's trying to say about anything in Death Stranding. But
Yeah.
yeah, or like how he came up with any of these concepts, or why he chose for that gameplay mechanic of just taking something from point A to point B in like the most safe manner possible. Why,
Uh-huh.
like how he made that enjoyable and
Yep.
entertaining. Because like I know for some people it is this kind of a relaxing game. They'll just build roads across the United States for like 500 hours or however much time they put into it.
Hmm.
Yeah, because like this is unique for like a AAA game in that you aren't motivated to kill things, because if you do, then everything goes boom. You know,
Yeah.
in this setting, yeah, and and the God, yeah, the graphics on this thing, as with
Oh yeah,
all Kojima games, are on another level graphically usually.
it's nearly the I'm playing it the remastered version on the PS5
With
and
the ray
the
tracing turned on and all that good stuff, I'm sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
the cutscenes are pretty near like lifelike, pretty near realistic. Like it's pretty nuts, especially like the faces, like the facial scans that they did of
Mhm.
like um what's his name, the
Norman
guy who played,
Reedus.
yeah, Norman Reedus, the facial scans they did of him, it's pretty lifelike and it's very impressive.
It's become
So
a long way, because like you compare this to a game like L.A. Noire, if you ever, because like that was the first game I played that also invested heavily in screen capping, performance, technology, for the gameplay development, and then of course everything that like Naughty Dog has done has been very heavily committed towards that sort of
mhm.
technology. So it's kind of a Sony thing as it's evolved, hasn't it?
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
true.
and God, eventually I'll commit my time to this game and get back into it, because the Kojima as a game developer has been a hero of mine since I was a little kid, and Metal Gear Solid 2 melted the brain right out of my head. I had
Yeah.
no clue what I was doing, and like I was monopolizing the TV. My family couldn't watch like a Netflix disc that we had gotten, because I was
Uh-huh.
in the middle of the last act of MGS2 and I refused to stop.
Yeah, I'll keep chipping away at it a half hour at a time, and I'll get back to you in 5 years.
There we go. That's the
Uh,
and eventually we can claim to understand what this madman has to say. Like one last thing about Kojima, there's a book he wrote that I really want to try buying, and I think it's called The Creative Gene,
okay.
and I think it's just like his like thesis statement on creativity, I guess, is what I'm assuming it is. So it's just him talking. Maybe it's part biography. I'm not sure, but it's out there, and I might buy it just and review it for us, later on down the line.
Yeah, sounds cool.
That
Yeah,
popped
go
up.
ahead, do it.
But a game that I played recently, like when it first popped up on because I'm subscribed to the Xbox Game Pass,
Mhm.
which gives you access to a whole slew of stuff from Bethesda and like id Software and Microsoft. Like I could play the new Halo on there if I wanted to, but this isn't a pitch for them. It's Back for Blood, the spiritual successor to Left 4 Dead, finally came out, and I played a lot of Left 4 Dead back in the day, especially at Section 9 in Fargo, back when that
Mhm.
place first opened. So it's like the Horde zombie game has a soft spot in my heart, and my buddy Nick, wanted me to pick it up, so we were playing it together, here and there for a while. And let me fucking tell you, that game is hard. Like that game was so hard they had to tune it down within like the first week to make it easier, because I couldn't make it through a fucking level without us dying, because instead of having a like a passive director AI, like ramp up the difficulty based on what's like happening in real time at the
Mhm.
beginning of every round, you draw from a deck of cards, and those have like specific like hazards that get introduced to the map that you have to go through, or like a task you have to do. So it's the
Mhm.
luck of the draw. You could get something easy, or you could get something that just fucks you. Like you have to get across a bridge while a horde chases you down. without losing anybody on your team, which is impossible
Okay.
to do. Yeah, so it's at times fun, but it also has this sort of pay to win mechanic into it where like if you want to have an easier time playing the game, you need to like do some kind of like currency shifting, like either putting real money in or just putting a lot of time into the game to
What
unlock
are you
things.
what are you paying for
I mean, unless
with
I'm
that?
misunderstanding, it's the because along with the hazards you can get bonuses,
Oh, like buffs?
buffs and stuff like that. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and or like different stats, like the ability to have a knife right at the start for melee combat, or the ability to reload really quickly, like after you've been hit, like that kind of a thing. Like so, it's like it's marginal boost. It's nothing that really overpowers you. So it's fun here and there. It'd be a lot more fun, if you could have like, four people playing, like all in one headset that you knew and cared about. Because playing with strangers on the internet is a thankless task, no matter what the game is. But I guess that's all I have to say about Back for Blood. It's
Okay.
it's fun, but I didn't commit $60 to the experience. But I don't know if I would if I didn't have the option to just play it for free, essentially.
Good Halloween game.
Exactly. More to the
Yeah.
point. More to the point. Spooky season.
Yeah. Yeah, and speaking of spooky season, the last thing that I kind of wanted to talk about in the mentionables section here was I've been reading Clive Barker's Books of Blood 4 through 6. So this is the second trio of short stories that he
Okay.
wrote. And it's pretty good. I like Clive Barker. I don't know. Do you have any experience with him
I
at all?
really like the first Hellraiser movie.
Okay.
Really like that. I've seen that like quite a few times actually.
Mhm.
But other than that, I don't have a lot of exposure to him.
Okay.
But I just like him I just like his persona. He's such a like a motherfucker,
Yeah,
as like and the fact that because he directed the first Hellraiser movie, didn't he?
I think so. I think that's
I
right.
think that's true.
Let's
Because
see.
that was something that I respected about him was the fact that he was like, no, fuck you, Hollywood, I'm gonna do it, And of course, then they've made them ad infinitum. It's amazing how many Hellraiser movies there are.
Yep, he did. He did.
Yeah,
You're right about that.
yeah. But I do want to pick up more of his actual like prose writing as opposed to just like comics or film stuff because that's where I more so have exposure to him.
Mhm.
Is in that realm.
Yeah. Yeah, these are really good. I think these are some of like his best stuff. The Books of Blood 1 through 3, I think, are still better. But I was just kind of looking for more Clive Barker. And obviously with Halloween coming up, or Halloween tonight, I wanted to kind of get through this, and I'll kind of touch on two short stories from
Yeah.
these that are really good. The first one's called The Body Politique,
Okay.
and that is the very first short story in the book. And it is basically the premise is that this man's left and right hands develop minds of their own, and they start a campaign to be separated from his body. So
Oh, what
it's
the
just,
hell?
yeah, it's like this guy, his hands are trying to cut themselves away from off his body. And I don't want to spoil where it goes, but basically there is a hand uprising that's happening in the world.
Oh my
And
god, what the
it's
fuck?
great.
That's wild. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why you gotta love a guy like and why horror like literature is so fun most of the time is because it is just like it can be zany stuff like that still is just like surreal, bizarre, and at the same time it's logical. It makes sense. It's like of course these things would want to be free, you know.
Yeah. It's pretty good. It's really, and then
Whoa.
the other one that I wanted to touch on was the first story in volume 5, which is called The Forbidden, and that's actually the short story that the Candyman was based off of,
Oh, really?
the movie
I
Candyman.
didn't realize Candyman was based on something Clive Barker did.
Yep. Yeah, it's a his original story, and it's very similar to the movie. the old one, like the
Yeah.
90s one. And it's just really unique. It's basically um, a horror short story set in the projects basically.
Yeah.
So it's a really really unique setting because it's just set in like these basically the neighborhood from The Wire,
Mm-hmm.
the
Mm-hmm.
projects from The Wire, and so it's a really unique setting for a horror short story, and it's really well written, and you can tell why it's the one that they chose to make a movie out of because it's
Mm-hmm.
very good.
And as a like a horror slasher sort of a thing, it's like typically those stories are set in white suburban neighborhoods,
Mm-hmm.
where, bad things don't happen. And to have a horror story set in a horror show of a neighborhood,
Mm-hmm.
like you might, yeah, it makes sense. And it's not actually done that often.
No, it's not. Yeah,
Yeah.
and it was definitely the first, and yeah, very, very good. But yeah, that's all I want to touch on there. I'm not quite done with it yet, but it is, like I said before, I would, if you want to look into getting into Clive Barker, I would start with volume 1 through 3 of Books of Blood.
Right on.
I think the stories are a little bit better per on average, but they're all good.
Definitely gonna do that. Like I said, I have an affinity for people like Clive Barker. Like whether it's like Garth Ennis or you know like even like in general, I just identify Clive Barker with the comic book aesthetic of Avatar Press, because obviously
Oh,
they adapted a pretty much like their bread and butter was adapting work like his and working
yep.
with people like Garth Ennis and so on. But
Mhm.
yeah, right on, right on. But let's move right along, right into the main event of the evening.
Mhm.
Last night in Soho, the latest from our good buddy Edgar Wright, the man of the hour Too Sweet to Be Sour, who brought us the Cornetto trilogy. And in general, what was your general impressions and feelings towards this movie after you walked out of it?
Yeah, so kind of, yeah, it's completely spoiler free. I really enjoyed this movie when it first started, and kind of I was on kind of a slow decline with it, and by the third act, I really didn't like it anymore.
Yeah. Okay.
Um, and that's kind of where I'll leave it. What did you think?
I went through the same struggle, and in a lot of my the unravel, like without getting too specific, it's like, yeah, like I was swept up with it right away. I was dazzled with a lot of the sequences that introduce the logic and rules of what the main character was experiencing. But by the time it just started muddling about with like weird fate, like yeah, when the weird faceless ghost people just started showing up with really no logical reason,
Mhm.
and the character started floundering, the story started floundering for me as well, because I just started thinking to myself, okay, just ask for help in a different way, or or just not do what you're doing. Like I just wanted the character to stop doing what she was doing after a while,
Mhm.
and instead of just committing her to doing essentially what everybody in the movie was telling her she was going to do, which was flame out and go crazy.
Yeah.
And I was just worried that that's all that the movie was actually doing, was just having this young lady just just burn herself alive in the street, metaphorically. And that was, and I just stopped enjoying it, like at that point. But there was a lot to like about it.
Yeah. Oh, for
And
sure.
by the and when the and what I alluded to earlier, when the twist was revealed, it didn't make me go aha. It made me go, oh yeah, that was fucking obvious. Like of course that's what was actually going on. And it's strange, but the movie that it reminded me of more than any Edgar Wright movie was Promising Young Female.
A woman?
Yeah, Promising Young Woman. Yeah, Promising
Yep.
Young Woman. Yeah, without being too specific about why, but they have a lot in common
I
insofar
can see that.
as they are very stylish, as feminist revenge movies. Like ultimately, that's what, like, this movie had a feminist statement to make. There's nothing wrong with that. It's a point very well made about the era. But Mad Men spent years talking about how fucked up the '60s were. As far as the mores of in the relationships between men and women. We've already seen this stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't need to have the point driven home to me that gross white men in the '60s were gross and sexist.
Yeah,
And that's where it lost me. It's like I thought it was good. I thought it was gonna be about something a little bit more than that, or
yeah.
just be about the mood and the vibe and about an ambiguity or an enigma more so than a flat out a murder mystery.
Mm. Yeah, the kind of to kind of get more into it more specifically, I really liked where it started at the beginning. That was the only part of the movie to me that had any sort of recognizable element of being an Edgar Wright movie was
Mm-hmm.
her kind of living her college life,
Yeah,
because there was a lot of the sort of Edgar Wright trademarks, like the quick cutting, all the quick cuts, all of like the fast frenetic editing, the music,
mm-hmm.
all that stuff, like close-ups on like doorknobs opening and closing, and like beer taps going down and up, and
Yeah,
really fast close-ups. And then it just like became, I mean, I really liked the first club scene when she went to the nightclub for the first time,
yeah. The
and
first
she,
night in Soho, that sequence
yeah,
was magical.
yeah, that
And
was awesome.
how the way that the because the camera work in this movie was great. It's the highlight. It's why you watch this.
Mhm.
Like most Edgar Wright movies, it's like, especially like from Baby Driver to this. Like we can get more into that later on, but yeah, the sequence where you're weaving the two women, the two female leads back and forth between each other as the camera pans around and dances around. Like there's some like really cool, dizzying, creative sequences, like in the front end of this movie, but it just gets bogged down by all of the giallo elements. Unfortunately, the more this becomes a giallo movie and less an Edgar Wright movie, the less it succeeds.
Yeah. Yeah. It was almost as if he decided like he started off with the concept that he wanted to make a Giallo movie, and then he had to build everything around that. He started at the end and then worked his way back to the beginning.
Yeah,
Because yeah, um, the more it became a horror movie, the less I liked it. And it's weird to see this from Edgar Wright too, because he chose to play everything so straight,
yes,
because he's such like a comedic director, and this is like he kind of stepped into serious filmmaking with Baby Driver, because there's definitely funny parts in Baby Driver, but that movie does kind of the same thing,
mm-hmm.
where it gets really serious towards the end,
Yeah,
and all the humor disappears, and then you start having like a antagonist in the movie, and then the same thing happened in this movie, except it really didn't have any humor in it. And yeah, it
yeah.
was weird. It was weird. And it's just not, I think he played it wrong. Honestly, I think he was dead set on doing his twist on a genre, which is what Edgar Wright usually does. He does his twist on horror movies, or his twist on 1970s pod people movies, or
Mm-hmm.
his twist on a cop action movie. And this didn't really work with his style.
And so let's just silo something into the conversation, briefly. There is like a definite, like, even though the periods are kind of intermingled, there's there's definitely different kinds of Edgar Wright movies. You have the Cornetto movies, which are very defined and distinctive and know what the fuck they are and
Yeah.
succeed at being what they want to be, and I hold on to them quite a bit. And then you have all of the non-Cornetto movies, starting with Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, which, works when it works, is uneven when it's uneven, and also kind of loses its way as he bumbles through the second act, where he doesn't even really, where he loses sense of the movie he's making. And in Baby Driver, adding in the gravity and the seriousness pulls you away from a character that really is a cartoon character. He exists in his own little cartoon reality in a real world. The way that he dances around and like, works with people. Like he still is acting like a guy who's in a movie and almost knows he's in a movie. But then all of a sudden he's slapped in the face by Kevin Spacey, and all of a sudden we have a serious gangster movie on our hands, about how you can't get out of this life, kid. It just becomes something else other than an Edgar Wright movie. And maybe like we're expecting something like I don't know. Maybe he just has no interest in making movies like the Cornetto trilogy that had those sensibilities and championed them all the way to the end. Versus latching onto sensibilities that really don't suit him. Because he wants to make movies with a broader appeal. But with a movie this, like, you have to be a nerd to really gushingly appreciate the sensibilities of giallo and every one of them that are representative in Last Night in Soho. To like have that matter to you that much that you love this movie, for me to do that, I would have had to have watched a lot more giallo than I have. Like I'm pretty limited, I have to admit. If it's not like a Dario Argento movie, or maybe like I've seen one Fulci movie. I think it's The Beyond. Is that one that he did?
Yeah, that's Fulci.
Yeah, I've seen that one. Yeah,
zombie movie.
yeah, like with the house and she goes into like another dimension. Like there's a spooky house in New Orleans. That's what that movie's about. But in this one, we have a spooky apartment, like a bedsit in London.
Yeah,
And I guess we could give a little bit more detail on the characters in the movie, because we're gonna venture into spoiler territory because I'm tired of dancing around certain things.
Yeah, go ahead.
The one thing about this movie that would have made it work better, would be getting a little bit more out of Diana Rigg as this landlady, and giving her more to do. Maybe like having more intergenerational connection between her and the main character played by Thomasin McKenzie. Did I get that? Your last name is McKenzie, right?
Yep, that's right.
Yeah, and she's the young lady from Jojo Rabbit, and she was an old, as it happens.
Yep.
Yeah, that took me by surprise. If but for a moment, right? Because then eventually that character ages out and she's like out of the movie after she was in it for like 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
But in this, Diana Rigg was just not on screen nearly enough. And when she was on, and when she did, finally was front and center and fully in the element of what her character really is, she shines. But the movie is kind of sucking at that point, unfortunately for her. But maybe if she had been woven into a bit more and helped it build towards the final moment, it would have had more impact. But I think he was too focused on hiding her, behind the blinders of the character. Because what pissed me off was the moment where they're at the end of the movie when she's drinking the tea, and having that final conversation with Diana Rigg, and she looks up and she sees the picture of Sandy.
Oh yeah.
And it's just like, are you fucking serious? She's walked in this fucking room how many times, and she hasn't seen that, and that's where I really like lost like the ride, as it were, and I was just like, oh fuck. Okay, here we go.
Yeah, what did you make of Anya Taylor-Joy? Because I think like she's at the top of her career right now, and I don't think this movie made her look really cool.
Yeah.
But she hardly played a character. She was just like the embodiment of cool, and she danced a bunch, and she like looked nice, and
she sang Downtown beautifully.
Yep, that was good. But like, yeah, it's hardly a character, and especially when they're telling you like, okay, we need you to care about this character. They didn't really do much to support that.
Yeah, all they gave us was she, got she's being used by a pimp. Isn't that
Yeah.
sad? And yeah, like she's just a naive little ingenue, who falling into the same trap that they all do. And yeah, like you say, she reminded me quite a bit of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, how Tarantino used, God, what's her name? Australian, the actress who played Sharon Tate in that.
Oh,
Um,
Margot Robbie.
Margot Robbie. Margot
Yeah.
Robbie was barely in that movie too, and all she really did was dance around and look cool and just project the aesthetics of the era that they wanted to highlight. And yeah, because like this movie is a Last Night in Soho is all about being postmodern, about what the idea of the swinging 60s is to the British culture and identity. Like we remember, like if we think about the swinging 60s in London, we think of Austin Powers. At least
Yeah.
our generation does, because that's how that's the first representation that we got to experience in
Yeah.
our lives. And that's just happy go lucky. Hey baby, we're just gonna shag, and then we'll smoke weed and have a good night. Everything's gonna be cool. And here we find out, oh no, it's actually just a lot of really gross people doing awful things to each other, just like all of human history. And we just cover it with nostalgia so that we don't like remember how awful shit was back then and don't think about how awful shit is now. Yeah,
Mhm.
and that's a fair point to make. But like I said before, Mad Men already did this. It's like every single, period piece that we've gotten from Hollywood or any source in the last 20 years has driven this point home. We get it.
Yeah.
And there could have been something a little more interesting to this beyond just a feminist, power statement.
Mhm.
Because the did I read it wrong? Because at the end of the movie, Diana Rigg has revealed herself as and the ghosts of all the murdered men have revealed themselves to be benign. She's the real threat. The ghosts were just trying to get help, or something like that,
Yeah, apparently.
apparently. And even though they were going about it all wrong by grabbing her and groping her and saying weird things to her, but then again, that just might be how she was seeing them.
Yeah.
Because we've kind of glossed over like the aspect of Thomas and Mackenzie's character, her Ellie, this fashionista, this wannabe, fashion designer. Like they gloss over it in the film, like Edgar Wright does, I should say. They just kind of throw this reflection of her mother into mirrors of her dead mother when she's not there, and her gran is aware of it, and her gran is like, "You're not seeing her, are you?" And it's like, "No, gran, she's not there, not in months," even though it's a total lie, because she doesn't want her gran to know the truth that she still is seeing a reflection of her dead mom, like a specter of her dead mom. So we're just automatically told to assume that this young girl is a medium, and that's just
Well, I
something
think it's
about
like
her.
it was a very half-assed way to go about commenting on mental illness.
I suppose, yeah.
Yeah, it was just like, I mean, that's what it was. Is it was like, she was like mentally ill in some way, and the city was kind of getting to her, or it was
Hmm.
kind of activating that part of her brain, like it did for her mother. And it was just really like bad
Hmm.
about that. Like it shows up at the beginning of the movie, and then it shows up at the end of the movie, and like
Yeah,
that's it.
that's it.
When she sees her mom in the mirror, and you kind of forget about it for the rest of the movie, and you just think, oh, this girl's just crazy,
Yeah,
like,
she's just bonkers. She's just cuckoo
yeah.
bananas. And after a certain, that's what made me sad, because I was like, no, I want something otherworldly and inexplicable to be going on. I just don't want this young lady to be crazy. And initially, like when the revelation that the Terrence Stamp, his character actually wasn't Matt Smith's,
Yep.
and like that little twist, kind of like made me go, oh, what the fuck. It's like, so she just killed this dude for no reason.
Yeah.
Like he did nothing wrong except like not arrest you know yeah, editate or not. But just not arrest Sandy when she was a street prostitute, or like he didn't save her from her pimp. Like
Hmm.
that's the crime that he committed, was that he was still just a ladies' man trawling for girls. Yeah, so he even though he was like a cop and supposed to be like a good guy in the scheme of things, like, cause he, yeah, I don't know, like it did make me wonder more so about like what his relationship with Diana Rigg's character was over time. Like I don't know, like there's just so much about that character that isn't important because his character isn't important. He's a red
Yeah,
herring.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and it's weird because I always hate when movies do this when they cast bit parts with really famous actors,
Hmm.
because I don't know if you noticed, but um, the guy who played Terrence Stamp when he was younger as the police officer,
Yeah,
that's Sam Claflin. Do you know Sam Claflin?
I do not.
He's a pretty famous actor. He's, I think, most known for the second Hunger Games movie.
Ah, okay.
But he shows up for, he's only in that scene, right? That's
Yeah,
the
he's
only.
he's in that scene, and then the flashback when they replay, when they show the memory, when they literally just show his scene twice. Yeah, they show it the first
Yeah.
time and then they show it again.
Yeah, so I mean, he was yeah, Sam Claflin. He was in Catching Fire. He was in Snow White and the Huntsman.
Yeah.
He was in Peaky Blinders.
Okay.
He's been in quite a lot of stuff, and yeah, it was just weird because I think he's a pretty recognizable actor. And when he showed up, I was like, why is this guy playing this tiny bit part of a
Yeah.
policeman
Yeah, in
in
this
this one
movie. Yeah.
scene?
Well,
And
why did the one of the actors who played Fred and George Weasley show up just to be the coat check guy?
yeah, that was weird. Yeah,
Like it
no,
was
I
like
noticed
I didn't
that.
even realize it was him.
Oh,
Like
really?
until afterward, and I was like, okay, I had known that there was a cameo appearance by one of them in it, but I was like, I didn't recognize him right away.
Hmm.
But then like I went back and I figured it out, and I was like, okay, like why the fuck are you in this, and why are you just in it for this little moment?
Uh-huh.
I think, yeah, I think, because like, was this filmed during COVID, or was this
No,
a
before.
pre-COVID movie?
Yeah,
Okay, so
before.
so this wasn't an instance of I just need something to do, mate. Just throw me something, like it wasn't something like that where people were just looking for any excuse to get out of the house.
No, I don't think
Yeah.
it was. I think it
Okay.
was. I mean, I think honestly, probably what it was is when a person hears the name Edgar Wright,
Yeah.
they'll be like, yeah, I'll drop what I'm doing and be in your movie for 5 seconds. You
Yeah.
know?
I'll take a day. I'll take a week. I don't care. Just
Yeah.
give me something. I'm dying over here. I'm gasping for breath.
Yeah. So, is there anything else you wanted to touch on or anything? Or
Well, I guess, yeah. Like as far as, yeah, like what, yeah, what does an Edgar Wright film even mean going forward? Yeah, because like we compare this to like Wes Anderson, who has never really faltered, has just gotten more assured in his direction. If we're going to use the Quentin Tarantino tuning fork analogy, Wes Anderson's tuning fork just keeps ringing louder and isn't dissipating. You know
Mhm.
what I mean?
Yep.
Edgar Wright's tuning fork is really getting fucked up by some of these creative choices he's committing himself to. And a part of me looking back on his career was glad he didn't get the Ant-Man job, that they chose the better path by just finding mercenaries who would not ever have their own sense of style.
Mhm.
And that was why he was a bad fit for it, as far as the Marvel vision was at the time. 10 years
Yes.
removed from that, that news of him getting fired from that movie, like I view it totally different. At the time I was so pissed off. I was like, I wanted him to have that job. But now I just see him doing that. He's going to become a Sam Raimi as a filmmaker. More mercenary. He's kind of lost a sense of what his creative goals are. If this is what his output's going to be like, it's going to be flashy. It will look the part. It'll look like the product we expect, but it's, yeah, like just not memorable, not lasting. and I don't think I'll watch this again unless like I watch it with my girlfriend.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I kind of think the same way. I mean, you can't really fault a guy for trying, because he's at the point in his career where he kind of has carte blanche to do whatever he wants.
Very
And
clearly.
yeah, and so he's kind of taking full advantage of that and branching out. And I mean, if he wants to keep doing that, he can, but pretty soon that's going to run out and movie studios are going to start saying, hey, you just keep losing us money, because it actually, we're recording this on Sunday night and this movie kind of bombed. I think it did
Oh,
about 4.5 million
that's
this
rough.
weekend. Yeah.
It
So
was just me and one lone soul in the theater in Bismarck here on opening night. It
yeah, there
was
wasn't many people in mine either.
pretty
So
tragic. And it was also
yeah.
in the dingiest, like most out of the way theater in the whole multiplex.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like it was like a corner theater, with like where they have like the tapered stadium seating, like
Oh, yeah.
it gets narrower towards the top. Yeah,
Yep.
one of those situations.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I think that's probably what's going to happen is he's going to keep doing what he wants, and then eventually he might have to go back to the well
Yeah.
once the movie studio starts saying, "Hey, we need a sure bet this time. You can't
Yeah.
keep doing this."
So it is the sure bet is the well just making movies with the with God, Simon
Simon
Pegg
Pegg,
and Nick
yeah, Nick
Frost. Is it
Frost.
is it just getting the boys back together?
I think so. I think it's either that or, maybe he will eventually uh, get put on more mainstream movie, like some action movie, some comic
Yeah.
book movie, some novelization adaptation, something more mainstream.
Because that is the thing. I could see him doing very well, God damn it. I am so bad with remembering names. My recall's gone. And it's terrible. Um First it was losing all the MMA fighter names and stats that I had, and now I can't remember who directed Guardians of the Galaxy and the Suicide Squad. James Gunn.
James
God
Gunn,
damn.
yeah.
I wish that, yeah, like if he could have a rebirth, being given carte blanche to be himself, but making something for a company like Warner Brothers or God forbid Disney, whatever. If they could like still let him be him, but just work with somebody else's toys for a change, because yeah, like Scott Pilgrim versus the World is a really fun movie.
Yeah.
Even now, going back to it, like the whole package is really worth returning to, and he
Yep.
could deliver something just as effective and put together and enjoyable for a company like DC or anybody really. Fuck, give him like a Creature from the Black Lagoon movie.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I know we don't really have a spot for this, but I just kind of want to bring it up because seeing the trailer for it before Soho got me really excited for it. What do you like? What is your take on Guillermo del Toro's next film,
Oh,
Nightmare
yeah.
Alley?
Yeah. The one that's kind of like set at like a traveling circus or
Yeah, like a
something.
freak show sort of a
Freak show.
situation.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know really what to make of it because I mean, there's not that much out about it, and the trailer doesn't reveal a whole lot. Um, but it looks interesting. I mean, it's the perfect movie for him,
coming off
and
of the Oscar win that he had.
yeah,
Yeah.
and yeah, I mean, I think it's the perfect movie for him because um, if somebody's watching this and doesn't know, a couple years back, you and I went to that Guillermo del Toro exhibit.
Which was very freaking cool. Which is just
Yeah,
all of the collectibles and ephemera he's picked up over the years, regarding all of his fetishes and interests.
yeah.
Yeah.
So like when I see the trailer for this movie, I think of that. Like I
Mhm.
think of some of those paintings from that exhibit or some of the stuff he's collected over the years, and I'm like, yeah, this fits. This
Yeah.
definitely fits.
It's in the wheelhouse. Like
Yeah.
you can almost can imagine that like every single thing he puts in his notebooks is just coming from some creature that he keeps in a jar in his basement.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah. It'll be good.
but that has me excited. Looking
Yep.
ahead to next week, we have
Yeah.
a few things, that like we could still check out in theaters. We're um like I'm still I think I am going to plan. I'm not going to think about it. I'm going to go see Antlers, and finally give Nick Antosca and Scott Cooper more time in my brain, because I've been watching a lot of Channel Zero,
Hmm.
here and there, and just kind of picking up some of the other things that he's put out there recently. And Antlers has been a long time coming. I remember seeing that thing announced a long time ago,
Yeah, there's been a trailer out for that movie for 2 years.
which is an insane amount of time to like
Yeah.
not have it be released. It must have
Hmm.
been at some festival in the interim, no
Hmm.
doubt. But yeah, that's a long shelf life, and for a movie to still like succeed, is, yeah, we'll just have to see. There's a lot of familiar faces in that movie, and it's just a spooky little Wendigo horror movie that I'll be watching after Halloween.
Yeah.
But we also have a western on Netflix called The Harder They Fall. What do we know about that one?
Yeah. So yeah, for next week, we got The Harder They Fall. So that's a Western with kind of an all African American cast. The director,
It's Django, but from the African American community.
pretty much,
Pretty
yeah.
much,
And
yeah.
it's directed by this guy who he goes by the sort of nickname of the Bullet.
I need to pull this dude up. I need to
It's
find
really
it.
weird.
The
And
Bullet.
he's only directed a Jay-Z music video other than this movie. So that's it.
Damn.
Yeah. And it's supposed to be good. The movie actually already premiered. It got a limited theatrical release before they're dropping it on Netflix next week.
Oh
It's
my
supposed to be
god.
pretty good. Um, and then other than that, we've got Eternals, which is the long gestating Chloe Zhao Oscar winning Chloe Zhao's Marvel movie, which has a lot of people talking right now. A lot of people who say it's bad, a lot of people who say it's good. So at the very least, it'll be interesting. Then we have Spencer, which is the new Pablo Larraín movie in theaters. That's the movie about Princess Diana.
Yes, yes.
New TV series from Ji-woo Kim, the guy who did I Saw the Devil and A Tale of Two Sisters. That's called Dr. Brain on Apple TV Plus of all places.
And it might get me to get a subscription, because I love everything this dude has done. Like, I Saw
Yeah,
the Devil is in my top 10. It is a
yeah,
hard spot in my top 10, that movie.
amazing movie.
Amazing
Yeah,
movie.
yeah.
But also A Tale of Two Sisters. That movie also fucking rules. But
Hmm.
the trailer for this just like melted my brain. I had no clue what I saw, but I'm down for it. I am here
Yeah,
for it. Like
it looks awesome.
I'm glad that Korea has continued to just have such a strong position on the global culture front. Like even before Parasite happened, like there was just this, I guess honestly it starts with Gangnam Style taking hold, but and K-pop becoming more popular. But the Squid Game being a huge success for Netflix is one thing. I want to see art house streaming finally like really be a thing and be
Hmm.
successful, because what a lot of the time when they try and put, like, when these streaming platforms put out something really like transgressive, or like really like stylistically unique, they falter, and they fail, and people don't pay attention to them or notice them. Like
Yeah.
stuff like Maniac on Netflix, like that Jonah Hill, um Emma Stone series that's like about those people taking like weird like placebo drugs for their mental illnesses. That was batshit insane, and it was really cool, but you couldn't convince anyone to watch it. But I
Yeah.
feel like a lot of people are just going to be looking for Korean things now, a lot more than they used to.
Oh, for
It,
sure.
yeah,
Yep.
and And goddamn, I hope they don't get too scared away by Dr. Brain. Because when I saw the title, it just made me think about this old Sierra Online PC education game series called The Castle of Dr. Brain. And a part
Okay.
of me for a second was like, did they fucking adapt Dr. Brain? Like, what the fuck is happening? But then I saw what it actually was.
Okay. Yeah. So then, also on Apple TV Plus, the movie Finch,
What is
which
that?
is new Tom Hanks movie.
Oh, about
Um,
yeah, yeah, okay.
yeah, he has like a robot. That's directed by Miguel Saponik,
Yeah.
who is the director of all of the really big Game of Thrones episodes.
Yeah,
Like,
he's the go-to guy. Yeah, he
yeah,
like the Battle of the Bastards and the Long Night and all those, like those were
yep,
all of his episodes.
yep, they were all his. So that should be interesting. And then lastly, the last one I wanted to touch on, and this one, this is going to be a rental. The movie's called One Shot, and this movie looks like trash, but it's notable because, as the title suggests, the movie was shot all in one take.
You gotta love films like that.
Yeah. So, and it's starring former stuntman. I don't know if you're familiar with him at all, but Scott Adkins, who is a very
And
famous stuntman. Um,
Ashley Greene and Ryan Phillippe.
oh,
But
really?
yeah,
Okay.
and I guess I wasn't aware of this, but I do have an affinity for long take movies.
Yeah.
Like there was, and especially when they all try and fight over like who actually did it in one take, and and who spliced it and who didn't. Like there was a German movie not too long ago that like really went hard in that direction. That name is escaping me, but it was I am just I'm a whore for movies that are technically, brilliant, and you have to be technically brilliant to pull off a one shot sequence of any duration, let alone a feature length.
Yeah.
But
Did you ever
yeah,
see the Netflix movie Extraction with Chris Hemsworth?
I did not. Was that a oneer?
That, not the whole movie, but
Okay,
there's a chunk of it. There's about a 20-minute chunk that's one take,
interesting.
and it's pretty impressive.
I
Um,
might actually have to give that a shot because they're making a sequel to that.
they're making a sequel, yeah.
Yeah,
So it's good enough to watch for free on Netflix.
indeed, indeed,
Yeah,
and
but
as with quite a few things of that nature.
yeah, and then right before we close out with our final segments, I wanted to say for anybody watching that we agreed beforehand that we are going to be watching Spencer for next week.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
doing Antlers for my own edification, and I might not talk about Antlers until a later date.
okay, sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, if anybody's watching, be prepared for that. We're going to talk in depth about Spencer. I'm hearing very good things, but Chuck, if you want to bring us home.
Okay, bear with me, everyone. I am gonna have to. I have to. Something's not right, and I need to fix it before I can pull it up.
Sure.
Okay. Um, it's buggering me.
I'll just say
Yeah,
real quick. I
if
can.
you could just keep talking for a second. Yeah.
Yeah. So just to kind of, before we get into our final segment, which is going to kind of be a new thing that we're going to try from now on, um, you can, if you want to, you can reach me on Facebook. Chuck will put the link in the video description. On Facebook, I post about once or twice a week, sometimes three times, depending on how many movies I see. I post very in-depth written reviews, so you can check those out. That's pretty much all I post on there. I don't get into anything else on there. That's strictly for posting my movie reviews. So yeah, if you want to check that out, check the link in the description for this video. But otherwise,
All right. Yeah, we are ready to go. And yeah, and I do apologize, everybody. We will be more on top of this as we have a better understanding of how to do it. But we are about ready to jump into something that I am calling an invitation to Zen. And I do have to like give people a little bit of a heads up. This is some pretty edgy content, but it's all in good fun. And if you can't handle it, don't feel bad. about just turning this off and going on with your night. Thank you for joining us. We're from the Mezzanine, a podcast about motion pictures, and yeah, we are. I'll just hit the transition and then make sure that everybody can hear everything, and then we'll be good to go. Okay.
Thank you. What are your sins?
When I was about 13 or something, went fishing with my dad. I caught a fish and I was really happy about it. And I just felt like I had a connection with the fish. It just felt very nice in my hands. You know, the fact that it felt like it was chosen. It was chosen for me. And so when my dad told me to throw that fish back in the water, I couldn't do it. I was a stupid little kid. So I threw a rock in the water, pretending it was a fish, and I shoved the fish down my trousers. And this fish was not bigger than my dick when it's hard, but it was in there. And the fish, it got warm as we were going home. And I just remember I was getting a boner while I was going home. And my dad was speaking to me, and I tried to shift the focus away from the warm fish, because I could feel the fish kind of like shaking, dying, you know, on like it was giving me like a, not a, but it just felt like it was, you know, its last moments from my, and it felt really special to me. And I remember getting home, quickly going to my room, and I lied down. I got naked. I remember taking my zip down. The fish covered. That one moment just felt amazing to me. The warmth of the fish, and it was still kind of shaking, like its nerves were kind of going off, and it just felt so good. And I remember I didn't want to let that fish go. I couldn't let it go because I felt like I'm responsible for the fish. And so I cleaned up I cleaned up myself.
I'm sorry. You want me to stop it?
And whenever I get, you know, horny or stuff,
We're halfway through.
I'd use the fish to like masturbate, and I'd come all over it again and again. Almost at the house.
The look on her face.
And a clock on that something's going on with me. And he could tell from the smell, and he looked in my mini fridge, and he saw the fish, and I remember making up a lie, saying, "No, it's not my fish."
Oh my god.
My friend gave it to me. It was like some kind of prank. My dad kind of looking at me, disgusted, and I had to get rid of the fish, which was, you know, obviously sad. And I feel I can't, you know, it affects me because I can't speak to my dad without thinking about the fish. And what's even worse than that, I can't jack off without thinking about the fish.
No.
There's no fish-related stuff, nothing. I don't like fish food that much. I prefer steak, medium rare. But the fish, something about it, whenever I jack off, I kind of feel the fish, like, I'll never forget that feeling of it dying on my dick. So, that's it, yeah. That's the story. Look.
Just lie there and think about
nothingness. And I just have to say at the close of that, one of my favorite authors, Chuck Palahniuk, you know, has this big belief that by embracing uncomfortable and, you know, disturbing and unsettling things, you can learn a lot about yourself. So I hope everybody learned something about themselves if they listened through that whole thing. Thank you so much for doing that before me, Matt.
Yep.
I promise you it'll never venture that far into the darkness again. But when I discovered that clip, I knew what the invitation to Zen was going to be.
Okay.
All right. But thank you all for joining us. We'll see you all next week. Talk to you later, Matt. Have a good night, everybody.
See ya.